Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Brain Está Spicy, the podcast where two overthinking, sometimes anxiety-ridden friends spill on their highs and lows and the craziness of navigating mental health in our daily lives.
We are your hosts, Melisa and Christy. I'm Christy. She's Melissa. And as always, we are going to be talking about the beautiful chaos of life with spicy brains and inject this safe space with as much humor and our unique sazon as we can. So get yourself comfortable, grab your favorite drink or three, because it's sure to be a super fun time.
And just so we're clear, everybody, we are not medical professionals. The views and opinions that we are going to share on our show are for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not doctors, lawyers, or financial advisors. If you need expert advice in any way, shape, or form, please seek out the proper qualified professionals.
Seriously, go to therapy.
And with that, here we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to My Brain Está Spicy. This is our third episode. Yay. We're really excited to just keep on bringing you our thoughts and our real life experiences in this podcast. So today I wanted to really focus on something very specific that's going on in Melissa's life. And I wanted to get her perspective because I actually think this is something that many people are dealing with right now, and that is job searching and the job market right now. So outside of the fact that we're in a very turbulent, weird time in this country and world, it isn't the easiest thing ever to get a job. And on top of that, the market is just kind of wild. So I had mentioned this previously, but I am in human resources. I'm not in recruiting, nor do I wish to be because no, thank you. But I do have some years of experience with recruiting just because when you're in HR, you kind of do your rounds. So I just kind of want to get Melissa's perspective on her experiences. So Melissa, why don't you tell us, first of all, like maybe background. So it's like starting from beginning of like what you're comfortable doing, what you like doing, what you don't like doing, where you've journeyed on your career path so far.
Sure. So first thing I'll say, the job market right now, honestly, feels like Mad Max, more so than anything. Actually, aptly, that will be the title of this series, The Job Market Mad Max. And this is a two-part series. So like Christy said, today we're going to kind of be focusing on me and my experience and kind of where I'm at. But then in time, we actually have a guest that has offered to come onto the show and talk about kind of her perspective and what she's also seeing on the job market. But I don't want to spoil that. So we'll mention more of that when she actually comes on the show. But to go back to your question, so I have been a project manager in one way, shape, or form for about the last 6-7 years in different positions and different capacities. My background is hospitality. Started working in hotels. I really enjoy working with people. It fits me naturally really well. I did that for a few years before I burned out. And anybody who's listening to this podcast that has worked in hospitality, especially specifically in hotels in front office, you usually last 5 years. If you can make it past 5 years and you've moved to a different department or you've moved up, you usually can turn that into your career long term. But if you're in front office and you don't get out and you're not moving forward within 5 years, you usually burn out really quick. I would have loved to have continued doing what I was doing, but because I wasn't working in one of like the back office departments, I burned out from the lifestyle. Like I could never really plan holidays. I could never really plan plans because the schedules rotated every 2 weeks. My days off changed every single 2 weeks. Yes, the more senior I became, I got the better shifts. So I was usually either working the 6 a.m. shift or the 11 a.m. shift, which was like the middle of the day, which was fine, but you just kind of get tired of it. So I left that, did a 1 year, I like to call it my transition year. I did 1 year in higher ed, basically just to get used to working on a 9 to 5 schedule again. That's essentially how I looked at it and what it meant to work like in like an office setting. From there, I went back into hospitality. A good friend of mine brought me in to a great tech startup company. I was working in like restaurant point of sale systems, and that's kind of basically how I got into product training and development and project management, essentially. And I've been doing that in one way, shape, or form ever since. I was with that company for a few years, then moved into a learning and development company for a few years, doing more back of the house implementation project management, which is actually what I really, really love. And that's what I'm trying to get back to. Worked for an accounting firm. And then the last few years, when I got laid off in October, I was working for a government contracting agency. So I've kind of got experience in a lot of different industries, which I like. I can't speak for what that looks like from an HR recruiting background because I get the idea that it might look like a jack of all trades, right? But a master of none. But if you actually listen to the full extent of that statement, which a lot of people conveniently don't, and I don't know the exact words, but essentially the full statement is, Jack or Jill of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one, which is true. And for me, I feel like all of my experiences have really done a good job of allowing me to paint this really unique career. I wasn't expecting to get laid off. The government contract that we were working on, government contracting can go one of two ways. You either have a short stint, which is what ours turned out to be, or you get lucky and you can be on the same government contract for like 15 years. Now, mind you, this contract is all before the chaos that's happening right now, where there are government contractors and probationary federal employees that are getting fired and cut off without question, without review, nothing. I have friends and individuals that I was working with at the agency that I was contracted to that I just found out recently. They just got fired last week just because. And one of them is a director level position. And he was brought in specifically to like revamp one of the specific departments that I actually used to work for. But because he hadn't been there a full year, they didn't even give him a review. They just fired him. Now, granted, I know there's class action lawsuits and, we won't dig into that, but it's a shame. And in the end, like looking back now, getting let off is in a way a blessing because I wouldn't be going into this year with that turmoil and that constant stress that I know even federal employees that I'm friends with still now are experiencing, where they're like, I don't know what I'm going to walk into every day, not even every week, every single day. It could literally change from second to second. So I can't even imagine what that feels like. That said, this job search for me has been very different. I actually took advantage, or I gave myself a little bit of leeway and took a sabbatical from like right when I got laid off. I was able to get married without the stress of a job looming over my head. So all of that month before you get married chaos of like all of the finalizations, getting your dress, picking stuff up, picking up my husband's suit, doing rehearsals, scheduling things, making sure everybody gets in it. And like all of that I got to do without the stress of balancing a job at the same time. And it really allowed me and my body to kind of reset. Then I started searching in December, but I'll be honest, I didn't show up the same way as as I know I'm showing up now. And I don't want to dig into it yet because I know you have more questions for me, but initial input as far as what the job market looks like right now, like I mentioned, it feels like Mad Max. And I have been in the job search market several times across the last, God, I hate saying this, 20 years already. But it has never felt like this before.
What do you think? I have my own theories as to why it feels, and I completely agree with you. Very Mad Max vibes, very good luck. You're going to apply to 15,000 jobs and not hear from anyone. Yay. I have a couple like personal theories as to why it's become like that. I'm curious what you think the like the variables are that are leading to that. Why do you think it's so different now?
It feels really chaotic now.
Yeah.
And especially over the last couple of months, obviously, because of what's happening with the new administration here in the US.
Yeah.
So you've got this really weird, and I don't know if this is the right word, juxtaposition of companies that are really trying to push us forward and stick to the integrity movements that they said they pledged they were going to do, right? To change the marketplace, to help change people's lives in terms of allowing them to be able to work and live at the same time, offering work flexibility, life flexibility, so on and so forth. And then you've got the companies that supposedly made that pledge. And now we're all rolling back and requiring back in office and are forcing employees that they hired specifically remote to now come back. And it's like, and mind the French, they're wiping their asses with all of the production that they've seen. I'm sorry, the studies are out there. And people are allowed to work remote, or at least they're given the flexibility of having 1 or 2 days out of the office, or doing compressed schedules, or, like 4.5s or 4 days, or like 9-day fortnights where every 2 weeks, you get a Friday off. Productivity goes up. And yet so many companies are going backwards. And I think the thing too is startups come and go, but startups also have that competitive edge to them where when they offer that, they get better candidates. But I think right now, the additional chaos that's being added is there's just so many people in the job market right now. So many people in the job market right now. It is insane. Like you said, it's just there's this influx and you kind of feel like you're applying into a void.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I think there's so the whole remote work thing. I think most companies, unfortunately, only allowed remote work to happen because they had to, because of COVID. And that was 2020. In 21, they were like, oh shit. Well, like my company had one of its best years in 2021. We were all remote. Then they made us all come back in some capacity, whether hybrid or full or whatever. And I think it's ultimately all about profit
And control.
It's also correct. It's also about control or like surveillance. So I'm not going to say who I work for, but I work within a very traditional industry. Probably a dinosaur of an industry that isn't going to change anytime soon. And they don't care. They don't care. If you want more flexibility, go work somewhere else. Don't come here. We have kids lining up in college just to get a chance at an internship with us. So, peace out. Good luck. Like, that's the attitude. And it's and I see it. Like I hear it. Like I'm in these meetings with executives, and that's the attitude. It's you're lucky to be here. You're lucky to be here and get paid. You don't want it? Bye. And it's funny because you would be nothing without your workers. Absolutely nothing. The problem is, especially in the United States, we don't, the power of the working class has been
Diminished.
something people haven't, yes, very much diminished, and something people don't realize is a thing. Like, the only reason we have a 40-hour work week is because it was fought for. That wasn't just like a magic number that the bosses were like, okay, 40 hours seems like enough. The reality is that many, many years ago, and I don't have the exact statistics on this to reference, but there was a scientist back in like the 60s or 70s that, based on technological progress, said, by the time the millennium comes, so the 2000s, this is already 25 years, but the 2000s come around, our work week should be maybe 15 hours because technology is going to make it that much better, that much easier for us to get work done. But what has happened instead? It's made it worse. Not it's made it worse. Technology is not bad in and of itself, but it's been taken advantage of in the wrong ways. Just because I have a cell phone doesn't mean you should call me after hours. It doesn't mean I should have to look at it. There is nobody on this planet that's that important. And people who are that important, like doctors, are on call and not on call for specific reasons. Like whenever I speak to family members that are actual like oncologists, like actual important head of stuff doctors, they're like, but why do you have to work so much? I don't understand. They're saving babies, and I'm not saving anyone. I'm changing the width of a spreadsheet column. Okay? Like it's anyway. So I'm taking 15 tangents, so I'm gonna come back.
It's okay. I actually want to ask you a question before we kind of jump back into job searching. So you bring up a good point there with, the people that are actually in like super important roles, like doctors, even, judges and lawyers that work on call for the court systems and so forth. If we're not doing brain surgery or saving people from having to go to prison, there's no need for us to, be on call with cell phones. So in your opinion, because I'm different from you in this sense, in your opinion, how much of that do you feel is the business taking advantage, and how much of it do you think it's individuals giving companies that amount of access?
So I think it's a combination of factors. I think mostly it's the company, but the company also knowing that the individual in this day and age, right, where most of us are not doing super, super well financially. I don't feel secure financially, but I know I make well over what most people make because of how high up I am or whatever. And I'm fully aware of that. But even I don't feel confident where I am financially at all. One medical emergency like situation and I could be fucked. Easy. And that's true for most, like 99% of people. I think there's something about the fear of scarcity, fear of losing job security that keeps people where they are for whatever reason. Other people, you have kids and they have tuition, or you have, whatever. Everybody has a different circumstance. I think, sorry, my brain is processing. I think while we have only so much power as individuals, companies, it doesn't take a lot for them to be a tiny bit flexible. It doesn't take anything out of their pockets to be a tiny bit flexible with people. It really doesn't. Like it doesn't because they do it themselves. That's the hilarious part. That all these companies that are like, yeah, return to work, everybody back in the office 5 days a week. They're still taking months where they're going to their 5th house in Montreal just for the summer, just to summer there, and they work from there, but they're working, but they're an executive. So they're an exception. And that's bullshit. It's just bullshit. Like it's a rule that they make for themselves
that they don't give to others.
Right, exactly. Like it's a lack of, I don't know, consideration, care, fucks. I don't know what it's a lack of, but it's a lack of all the things. I am very much a humanist, and probably, I don't know. I don't know politically how you would define me, but I'm very progressive. So I would say it's the company, it's capitalism. We're in a late stage capitalist society. So the power is not with the worker right now, even though it could be, even though we got the numbers, right? Like we are the majority. But there's a reason this country has succeeded the way it has. Well, up to now. Now I don't know what the fuck's happening, but it financially succeeded and grown economically. To me, the price is too steep. And people who are at the top are staying longer than they should. So, boomers, I'm talking to you. Not that any boomer would listen to this, but boomers, like you gotta let go. You gotta let the next generation come up because they're not letting go. They like coming to work. They like the vibe. I get it. You're used to it. It's your comfy place, and you like it better than you like your wife and your family, but you gotta go. You're over 65. Move on.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it too, with not allowing the next generation to come in. And to be fair, like some of their traits does bleed into Gen X. And
100%.
it can bleed in.
Gen X is
it
not
can
immune.
bleed into some millennials as well.
None of us are immune. Yeah.
But I think the difference, and while I agree, I believe a lot of the company has the control. I think because I have found myself laid off or fired several times. And I always take time to take a retrospective on what happened. Look into myself. Yes, it always sucks when you lose a job. And I grieved it when it happened. But I started to realize I gave so much of my soul to these jobs, and I am not doing anything that is life or death. So at the same time, I do feel like as individuals, we do have a lot of control at our hands. What you allow once, they will take advantage of. So I am the type of person, whether I'm salaried or not, right? You're paying me, a set amount across an entire year for an expectation, still based on a 40-hour work week. You will get my 100% between the hours of 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, whatever the standard work day is, right? If there is a project that absolutely needs a little bit of extra love that I am willing to give the time to, I will do it, but I will do it on my terms. Outside of that, if it ain't something that has to be done in XYZ moments, you will not hear from me after I log off for the day.
That's nice.
Sorry, not sorry. And I am the type of person
Good for you.
that when I am on vacation, pretend I am not there. And the reason why I started doing that, and this actually came from a job search I read in an article during a time that I was looking for work several years back, even way before the COVID times, where a company that's actually, I forget what it's called, and I've wanted to work there for years, and for right now, it's like completely left my brain. But one of their policies is when you're on vacation, if something falls through the cracks, it's the rest of the team's opportunity to find the gaps and figure out how to fill it. Because anything can happen any day where all of a sudden someone can't come back. And we got to continue business, right? So it forces companies and it forces teams where if I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. I ain't there. Y'all got to figure it out. And I am the type of employee, because as much as I say I'm gone, don't call me, I don't leave people hanging either. Like, I will prepare a leave plan. If someone's going to be covering my work while I'm out, I'll include them on calls and on emails like 2 weeks prior to me being on vacation. So they have all the facts on where everything is. My boss will know what is going on, where things are, where to find stuff, how to find stuff, who to talk to with information on what's going on. And if I come back from my vacation and you complain about something that was gone, and I'm like, and it was in my email from when I left, you can bet your ass you're going to get an email from me with the email that I sent out in CC. No, not CC, like attached. That says, you know, hey, while I was out, here's where all the resources were. I sent this to you guys. Like, I'm sorry, like XYZ happened. I go, but I did my due diligence before my leave. Like, come on. But anyways, we got off topic there, which is fine.
Yes, I'm sorry. So talk about how, if at all, your job search this time around, with the market being what it is and the environment being what it is, what tactics you're using or what you're doing any differently, if at all.
Hey, we're on the same brainwave.
There you go.
Okay. So whenever you're job searching, and it's funny enough, my therapist actually told me this on Friday. There's 2 ways you can go about a job search. The traditional way that most everybody does, which is apply to jobs, get denied, apply, get denied, so on and so forth, right? It's just a repetitive cycle. And then there's what I'm doing. I am, yes, doing the traditional job searching, but I'm also networking my ass off. I am going to conferences, virtual, in person. I am going to networking events. I'm a very active participant in 2 key networking groups here in the Central Florida area that I absolutely love, that are focused on tech, small business, women, Latinas. That's something that's very different for me that I've never done before. I'm really trying to move within the circle of women, because when women are elevated, especially women of color, everybody benefits. So I'm really trying to be very vocal in those settings. I mentioned LinkedIn. I am doing LinkedIn very differently. I'm trying to show up not as a thought leader because, you know, I have all of this amazing experience and data or whatnot. I'm not one of those people. But I am being more vocal about what's important. I'm interacting with posts that I see from people that I follow that resonate with me. So what I'm doing differently now is I'm just showing up differently. I give a lot of credit to my career coach that I worked with about 1.5 years ago. Shout out Carla. I worked with her when I really wanted to find a new job and move on from what I was doing with the government before, like way before the government contract was going to be done. Like, I worked with her back in 2023. Yeah, 2023. And I was in burnout. So I knew I needed to change because my soul was gone. I knew I wasn't happy at that job, and I didn't want to just apply to jobs desperately. I really wanted to find out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And I did a lot of that pre-work working with her. Applied to a couple of jobs while I was employed, came close, didn't work out, is what it is. Insert last year, summertime, found out our contract was ending, and literally overnight went from a full-time employee to a part-time employee. I couldn't work more than like 12 hours a week so that I could stretch the contracted amount of hours I had left, which is about 144 hours, across 3 months. So, and I'm not shy about this. I've worked my ass off. I was making good money. I was like $65 an hour on an annual salary that was just under 125K a year. And then when they cut me to part-time, the average on that number for the year would have been roughly like 97K a year. So still better than the average salary of most Americans today. But it was a big hit, and then ultimately got laid off and went from a household income of just under $200,000 a year between my salary and my husband's salary to just my husband's salary. And thankfully, I am married to a very wonderful, secure man who has no qualms at the fact that his wife was the one that was the breadwinner and was farther along in her career. I worked my ass off to get to where I was. And it's not to say that he didn't and he doesn't.
It's just different.
Two different routes, and just the way that my career advanced a bit quicker than his. That said, how all of that has played into the job search has defined what companies I'm looking at. I am very much looking at companies of value and commitment to specific areas. How I'm looking for work is different. I'm not just doing your basic LinkedIn, your Indeed, your Monster.com, although I don't even know if anybody uses Monster.com anymore. But to say the least, I'm not doing the regular stuff, right? For me, I'm trying to do a lot more of the intangible work of meeting and just getting in front of people and expanding my reach with the job searching. But when it comes to the job searching, I'm not just looking in the same old places. I'm really focusing on looking at startup companies and tech companies. So I'm looking at websites like Welcome to the Jungle, which is a great company that does a free user profile that then takes the values and roles that you're looking for and sends you regular matches with companies that I never would have heard of before. They've got a really good grasp on smaller, or not even small. Some of their companies are really big, but they're companies that most people never would have thought of looking into or heard of. I work with looking at jobs on another website called Flexa Careers. So don't get that confused with Flex Jobs. This is Flexa Careers. They primarily focus on international companies that do a lot of remote work. Again, another company that allows you, when you set up your job searcher profile, it lets you pick things about what are your life values? Where are you in your life right now? Are you a wanderer because you love to travel? Are you planning on starting a family? Do you have medical needs? Are you a dog lover? And then it asks you for stuff like, okay, what are things that are important to you in a job, in a workplace? And, common things like culture, diversity, women leadership, self-improvement, mental health, dog friendly, if that's important for you, if you want to work in office, work from home flexibility, hour flexibility. Do you want to work 4 days a week, 4.5, a fortnight? What are your core hours that you like to work? And then again, matches you to really great international companies that offer remote work. I am focused on remote. Now, granted, I am in a financial position right now where I have to start changing that, which hurts my soul because, and I've posted about this quite a bit on LinkedIn recently, work from home, remote work equals freedom. And a lot of companies, and you touched on it earlier, they're dinosaurs in this construct of control and oversight. You are not dealing with children. You are dealing.
Disagree.
I know, but I'm going to say my piece anyways.
Disagree.
I'm going to say my piece anyways. You are dealing with adults. Give them the freedom and the trust and let them pay you back in the effort and productivity. Like we talked about earlier, the studies are there, the numbers are there. Companies do better when they offer flexibility. So I focus on that. Those are the companies that I'm going after. And I'm also like a lot of people, old school, boomers like to say, oh, when you're without a job, your full-time job is looking for a job. No, it's not. No, and it can't be that way anymore. Like back in the day, fine, that's what you did. But you can't do that anymore. Why? Because the landscape of job applicants has changed. Back in the day, getting a college degree and having an MBA, especially an MBA, pretty much guaranteed you a fantastic high-earning position the moment you came out of college. That is not the case anymore.
Nope.
There are ways to be able to work now and educate yourself where you do not need a college education. That's not to say that college education is bad. I am very grateful I went to college. I am so proud of the fact that I graduated with my degree. I'm not doing shit with it, but it still prepared me. It still educated me. I also took advantage of programs within the university that exposed me to worldly views and worldly programs. I got to do a semester exchange. So I lived abroad for, 6 months, opened my eyes, changed the way that I think about things, which is great. But there are certification courses out there. You can get certified in data, in IT, in project management, in Six Sigma for leadership organization. As an instructional designer for HR, for learning and development, like there's a lot of other ways to gain experience and knowledge without having the price tag in this country, because it's totally different across the water in a lot of countries. Getting a elementary education, that's another conversation. But at least here, where you don't need that price tag and that debt. And that stress of when you lose a job, you can't pay for those college loans, Yep. I'm taking those steps now. Another, like I mentioned, looking for a job is not my full-time job. I spend a couple of hours every day. I think I usually spend about 2 hours a day looking for work. I try to apply at a minimum to 5 jobs a day if I can. The rest of the time, I am trying to take care of myself. This podcast is something that's new, right? But it's giving me reach. It's being shared by friends and family. It's hitting my network on LinkedIn. A lot of people are commenting. So it's bringing me people to my LinkedIn profile who will see the other stuff that I post about project management, about social justice, if I decide to do a social justice post, see my interaction about, job trends and things of that nature. So I'm expanding my reach, but I'm filling my days. I'm trying to read more. Like I said, I'm doing in-person networking. So looking for a job is still my full-time job, but it doesn't look the same. And I think that would be my one advice for other job searchers or seekers that may be listening to this podcast, which, by the way, this podcast was requested by one of our listeners who said she's working now, but she said, one thing I think you guys could tap into is giving a job searcher's perspective, because she spoke from the experience of, I remember when I was looking for work, like if I would have heard somebody on a podcast talking about their experiencing and what they're doing, it would have been really cool to kind of have that relatable experience and see how other people are thinking about it and make people feel like they're not alone. So that's why this episode came about. But yeah, like you cannot show up the same way. You've got to make yourself marketable. You got to do it in a way that's healthy. And you've just got to do it differently than how it's always been done. Can you still find a job the old way? Yes. It's going to take you a hell of a lot longer. I have been unemployed officially since October. So we're like, what? November, December, January, February, March. I'm going on month 5. It's hard. I believe I read in an article recently, the average person, it takes about 6 months to find a job now. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Granted, for those of you that may be listening that might say, well, any job is any job. Why haven't you just gone to like a supermarket to go get a job? I can't. And not everybody can. I mentioned it in another episode. I'm disabled. Can I do things? Yes. Do I allow my disability to limit me? No. However, it does set certain limitations in front of me. So, it's just going for a job just like that doesn't work for me. Just like, becoming a Lyft driver or an Uber driver really isn't, like, that's not feasible for me. So I have to put all that energy that other people might be able to do to like bring some sort of income into that to just change the way that I look for work. Right. So for me, that's the most important thing. That's what I would say has helped. That's what I would say to do is find what your talents are and look for careers that feed those talents. Feed your passion elsewhere. I'm not saying that there aren't people that are lucky enough to have their passion be their job. This is a passion for us, right? This is something we've talked about for years doing this podcast. It ain't paying us. Not to say it might pay us in the years to come, but it's not paying us right now, right? So I have to instead chase my talents. What am I good at? And if you don't know what you're good at, ask the people that love you the most. What am I good at? What are things that you see that I do really, really well? And then figure out how you can find jobs that match that. So
That's great advice.
hope that answered your question.
Yeah. We're at the 40-minute mark. So what I'm going to do is ask you one more question because I want to bring it back around to anxiety.
Okay.
I think job searching for anyone brings on anxiety, but you mentioned importantly that within each day, you're not just having a full-time job of applying to jobs. Don't do it. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Like, it's a bad idea. But you mentioned taking care of yourself. What does that look like for you? And how do you feel it's supported you during this time of like kind of uncertainty for you?
So that's a great question. Thank you for that. So I think for me, thankfully at the beginning of this, like I mentioned, I was blessed enough to be able to take a sabbatical. And I think that really helped because it allowed my mind and my body a chance to kind of reset. That said, once I did start looking for work again, I mean, it comes in waves. I had a day this week. I texted you on Thursday. I literally, and you weren't the only one that got the text. I texted a couple of friends and I'm like, the depression and the desperation is really high today. And that was Thursday. And because I've become a lot more vocal about, when I'm feeling good, when I'm not feeling good, I have key people in my network that I reach out to. One of them always comes through. You came through text. I know you were working all day, so you couldn't call me, but you were texting me all day to see how I was feeling. And then I had a girlfriend of mine who's also job searching. She called me. We talked for like an hour. And she's a mom, so it's funny. Good moms have this innate gift that they talk to you about what you're feeling about, right? But then there's this, I don't know what they do, but all of a sudden you don't even realize it and they distracted you from how you're feeling. You're still talking about how you're feeling, but they distracted you from how you're feeling, and then all of a sudden you don't feel as shitty anymore. So shout out to Veronica for doing that, right? But within the days that I am job searching, to answer your question originally, I just take breaks. One thing that I've started doing the last couple of weeks, because I'm off social media, which, by the way, update for everybody, I'm extending it to a 60-day social media cleanse.
Oh my God. Wait, you didn't tell me that.
I know. Well, I wanted to say that for today. My therapist recommended that I extend it for at least another month because when I went into my session, on Friday, she goes, you have so much momentum behind you right now. And it's because you don't have that social media hook that is sucking that time and that energy away from you. So she goes, I can't tell you what to do. It is still your decision. But she goes, I think you should give yourself more time because you still have moments where you still struggle. Because I mentioned to her that, now that we're doing this and I'm posting about it on LinkedIn, I'm now noticing that I'm going to LinkedIn a lot to look for that dopamine hit to see how the posts are doing. So I'm recognizing where there's still an issue and I need to work on that. So she wants me to continue that. But doing a social media cleanse has helped. And the last couple of weeks, I try to spend every day, because the weather is still beautiful here in Central Florida. It's not that hot yet. I'm taking advantage. And I'm going out and I'm sitting out in the sun in my backyard, like anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes a day. And I'm not looking at my phone. I set a timer on my phone so that I disconnect and I allow my brain to just sit in the environment. I've essentially become a very, very bad bird watcher. I've downloaded this cool app called the Merlin app, and I believe it's sponsored by Columbia University. And it's awesome. and I get to identify all the birds that are in my backyard because we have this ginormous tree in our backyard and we have so many birds that come to visit. It brings me joy. So I do that.
Aww.
I check in with people and I just check in with myself and I own when I'm feeling like shit and I allow the feelings to exist. I think a lot of the times we stuff it down and I'm not doing that. I don't want to. I want to let it out and I want to move through it so that I can continue to build the life that I want. And the last thing I'll mention before we wrap up, another thing that I did, and I thank my husband, I give him all the credit for this. So he sent me one day randomly when I first started my social media cleanse, a shared post from an affirmation app that he uses that I didn't know he was using. It's called the I think it's like the I am affirmation. I'll link it in our show notes later for anybody that wants to download it. And I selected different categories of daily affirmations that I want it to send me, and it gives me a rotation, and I have it set up, and it will send me affirmation prompts 3 times a day. So I have affirmations waiting for me when I first wake up every morning. I usually get up every day between like 8 and 9 o'clock. So the first thing I see when I open my phone is an affirmation prompt. So I'm reading 3 positive affirmations a day, 3 times a day between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. So it's nice because I start my day with an affirmation or 3, and I end the day with affirmations. I always read 3 affirmations right before I go to bed. So all of that is changing my brain composition and how I'm showing up. And I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. The sun, go sit out and be in it, especially for the Florida people. Now that it's not Satan's asshole level of temperature yet, go outside and sit there and appreciate the sun while you don't melt. The sun is so powerful, like in a good way. It feeds like the soul. It's so good. But all the things you said, very, very good advice, I think. Was there anything else you wanted to like talk about in regards to your job search?
Actually, I will say one last thing, and then with that, we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Get comfortable in the discomfort of failure and rejection, but don't let them define how you feel. I recently was in a job interview process for a job that, in my opinion, and actually my career coach's opinion, because I sent it to her when I applied, was the Cinderella fit. I mean, it's as if they plucked that job out of my brain, put it on paper, and I applied to it. And I felt so good about it. I prepared for the interview well. I felt I rocked it. I didn't get it. That was last week on Monday. I was rightly crushed, but because of everything else that I am doing to show up, I had the sadness on Monday. And then I was busy the rest of the week with job search stuff, which, by the way, I have started a Latinas-focused job search group that I started on Wednesdays. And it's just a community of job seekers that wanted to come together to basically support each other so that we don't feel like we're alone. I haven't come up with a name for it yet. I want to put one together. It's free access. We've got about 20 women so far.
You should call it like Buscando or something like that.
Ooh, that's cute. I'll consider that. So I started that, but because of everything that I'm doing, it helps me move through that rejection. So it sucks. I was sad. I really liked that job, but to use, and Veronica, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher your saying, but my girlfriend Veronica loves to say a statement to me, and she goes something along the lines of, por cada mal siempre viene algo bueno.
For every bad thing, something good comes.
Everything's a balance. Just like for everything good, something bad comes along. And it sucks to think about that, but it's true. Everything in life, this too shall pass. And I have to hold on to that. You know, if you're a faith-based person, hold on to your faith that things are going to get better. If you're more spiritual, which is what I consider myself these days, trust in the fact of life that if you're going through a bad moment right now, good things are the pendulum has to shift.
Yeah. It has to.
That's
Yep.
it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up.
Yes.
As you can tell, as we get more involved and we start talking about things more passionately,
We can't stop talking.
yeah, we can't stop talking, but I love it. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We look forward more episodes coming soon. For anybody that would like to send us good love, comments, suggestions, you name it, our email is thespicybrainpod@gmail.com.
What she said.
So with that, we will wrap up. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. And until next time, may your brains be just a little bit less spicy.
And your tummies too.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this mental health ride. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, follow, comment, and share My Brain Está Spicy with your fellow overthinkers. Because the more, the merrier in this spicy brain club. If you're curious about any of the hacks or products we've mentioned, check out the show notes for links. We're not sponsored by any of these, though feel free to call us. We just love them so much, and we think you might too. Catch you next time, and until then, may your brain be just a little bit less spicy.